Coach, congratulations on the win today.
Thank you. Thanks a
What
lot.
did you feel were the most significant factors?
Just my general thoughts. I thought we played the game the right way. I think that's evident by the assist numbers offensively first. I thought defensively, if you look at their field goal percentage, that doesn't happen by accident. And obviously we out-rebounded them pretty significantly. So I think all in all, we just played the game the right way. Our guys played really hard, played really unselfishly, and they played like they were appreciative of the opportunity to go out there.
Going back to the Texas game, then K-State, and now today, that's three really strong defensive performances. I'd have to double check in the play-by-play, but I believe Iowa State only had one field goal in the final 11 minutes of the game. Are you pleased generally where the team is defensively?
Yeah, are there areas we still have to improve? No question. I thought in the first half, we didn't get a bonus at all. In the second half, we got in too early. So obviously we could foul a little bit less in the second half. But I thought our intensity, our focus, I think our ability to switch defenses throughout the game kept them off balance. And it's certainly something that we'll continue to do because it gives us a chance to really, really be disruptive.
Cade was really efficient today. 21 points on 12 field goal attempts. The most assists he's had in a Big 12 game. Was there something that you feel, led to this performance, or did you see something like this coming from him?
We had 2 really good days of practice, and we played well. He had 2 really good days of practice, and he played well. I have a hard time just thinking about it that way just because it's not my nature. I think we're missing out on an opportunity to really appreciate a really talented young kid who isn't going to be in college for a long time. And I get it. Everybody wants to see him score 40 and maybe have 15 assists at the same time. He's having a hell of a year and doing it when everyone expects him to, when everybody's giving him their best shot defensively. For the most part, he shows up and performs at a pretty high level every night. He's not always as efficient as he was today. Man, if somehow, we can just step back for a second and understand that there's a 19-year-old out there, in a lot of ways dominating college basketball games without people even noticing. It's pretty impressive.
All right, members of the media, if you have a question for head coach Mike Boynton, please click raise hand and we'll try and get to everybody. Our first question is going to come from Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, Mike. People noticed Cade's first half tonight for sure. He's been criticized for slow starts. Do you tell him to go be aggressive on a first half like tonight? Is it something you saw in film ahead of time, or was it just him reading the game?
Cade's playing to win. So he does what we ask him to do to put us in position to win. Does that always mean we win? No. But I feel very confident that he's bought into this process of helping this program have success while he's here and helping his teammates along the way. And I get it, right? To whom much is given, much is expected or required. And certainly I'm not saying he's above criticism. I hope that's not the way it came across. But I do think there's a tendency to try to find out what he can be doing or should be doing more or better, instead of just looking at it raw and saying, man, kid's playing pretty damn good for a guy who gets double teamed a lot, and faces – he's playing against the best competition in college basketball. And the thing that I always want to remind people of is this was not the path of least resistance for his career. This actually was the probably more challenging route in terms of putting himself first. And so I admire the fact that he's gone through this and accepted those challenges and fought through that adversity of not playing well and learning on the fly. And so from game to game, he won't play the same, but he always plays to win. And that's the thing I appreciate the most.
With KB and MA, bunch of dunks. KB had 6. MA had a couple. Cade had 1. I think Avery had 1. Did you guys see something on film that kind of opened up things in the paint with the pick and roll and transition to kind of lead to more dunks?
Yeah, we were really, really locked in as a team in terms of spacing, screening. Our screening was a lot better, more clean. And Cade, again, to his credit, I think he probably was in 30 ball screens today. He made 2 poor decisions in ball screen coverages. Now, you look at the 2 wrongs, right? They led to turnovers and they are bad plays, but that's part of the process. Just think our team was pretty locked in. They were thankful for the opportunity to go out there and play and took advantage of what the defense gave us.
And speaking of turnovers, you only had 14 today. Are you pleased with that number? That's closer to what you said the other day.
Yeah, 12 was our goal. I thought Cade's charge was questionable, The one Avery had late, I have to go back and look at film and see what happened because I turned my back for a second. So we're close. We're getting better in that area, and it's certainly something we'll continue to make an emphasis because as you get later in the year and the competition is greater, the further you go into the season, value in the basketball becomes very, very critical.
And you found out today you get an extra couple days off, essentially. How beneficial is that for Ice moving forward, knowing that you get a couple more days even to get back for the stretch run?
I don't know what the hell's going to happen, Jacob, to be honest. I just don't know. Tomorrow something could change. The league could ask us to go play a game somewhere else, So we don't know. Glad we got this one out of the way. Play well. We were able to rest him again. So another opportunity to get him closer to being healthy and 100%. And hopefully the next time we do play, maybe he's even more prepared to actually get on the court.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike, was this game closer to that 40-minute perfect game that you were talking about the other day?
We're getting closer. Still, we're probably a 2 or 3 minute stretch there midway through the second half where we didn't get stops and didn't execute offensively or didn't make shots. So we're getting close. I thought our assist numbers, like I said, were terrific. There were still a few where we missed open shots that number could have been higher. So I always want more as a coach. I always demand more because I know we have more to give. This was a game where Bryson played. Neither one made a 3. So we haven't played a complete game where everybody's clicking, but we're much closer today than we were maybe a week and a half ago.
And you've had games where MA has been hot and you've had games where Caleb has been hot. How dangerous can this team be when both of those players are playing really well for you inside?
Yeah, it's interesting. The 2 games Cade missed, they both played pretty well, and I started getting questions about whether we were better without him. And I just had to laugh at that because it's kind of a ridiculous notion anyway, in any regard. But when we get them all playing on the same page and screening and running the floor and rebounding like we did, and I've said it before, I think we have a chance to be as good as anybody. And on any given day, we can compete and beat any team in the country. How consistent can we do that? That remains the key question for us.
And you've got another, one of your key players in Isaac Likely. The rest that he's had, have you seen a difference in his foot issue? Is it getting better?
Well, he practiced, what's today, Tuesday? Sunday, he didn't do much. He practiced a little bit yesterday, and he did go through shoot around today, which was pretty full go. But, again, we're not to the point right now where we feel like it was necessary to put him out there. So another day of rest, kind of see what the schedule lays out, what we hear from the league in terms of our next game, and we'll try to continue to get him rehabbed and back to as close to 100% as possible before we get him on the court.
What have these 2 games done for Rondell? Obviously he's been you guys' energy guy with Ice on the floor, but him getting these starts and doing what he's been able to do, what has that done for him?
Now, I hope it's given him full confidence that, he can be a guy who starts and plays well also. His first 2 starts, he's competed at a high level on Saturday. To turn around and do it, 2 games in a row in the league, is a pretty significant step forward. I always have to remind people, and I don't like to talk about our youth because a lot of times it seems like it's an excuse. But we're one of the youngest teams in the country and the 2nd youngest team in our league. And so I say that to say that we do expect Cade to leave, but we got a pretty good core here, and this program positioning itself to be a pretty strong contender in this league for, multiple years to come. So I'm excited about it, and a big part of that is him and the guys like Avery Anderson who are just sophomores, the Bulls are just sophomores. If we continue to put another recruiting class together that can contribute the way we have the last 2, feel really good about the stability long-term here.
Thank you, Mike.
Our next question comes from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, kind of just building off that Rondell point. He struggled in Lawrence what does it kind of say about his mindset that he's coming back, he's still shooting, he's still hustling, he's still doing everything? That seems unusual for a freshman. Maybe get a little gun shy after that performance in Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, and whatever we want to say about this season and no fans and all that stuff, I'm not sure how many freshmen play well the first time they moved up there. Marcus Smart, maybe, and I don't know, maybe that was his sophomore. I can't remember which game that was, but you know, it's a challenge, right? His ability to bounce back after that and not hang his head, not get dejected, because he works really hard. You know, we talk about it all the time. Work wins. Work is what builds confidence, not what you believe, not what you think you are, but the work you put in gives you the ability to go out there and maybe brush off a performance that wasn't up to par and be able to bounce back quicker than most people would think.
And then we've talked this year about your post struggling with big-bodied guys. Solomon Young's a guy that got you in the past. I think he had 6 points today, 4 of which came from the foul line. What did you guys do differently? Was there anything that you guys did differently to kind of control him?
Yeah, we just try to, we try to make his touches a little bit more difficult. We did try to double team him a little bit more, and we play zone to keep multiple bodies around him. So those are 3 things that I'll look back at the film and figure out how effective it was, because certainly thinking about the outcome, I feel like it was really effective. But obviously want to see how effective and what ways we did disrupt him, because he certainly is a guy that's really given us problems. I mean, I think his career highs against us. So to see us respond today the way we did, gives me some good vibes, I guess, that we can do this against big guys.
It seems like Bryce kind of couldn't catch a break today. Took a hard screen, took a hard fall, busted his nose. Is he doing all right?
I don't know. He was in the locker room, and so we'll see. He did have some stuff stuck up his nose and something wrapped around his head. And I think he was maybe taking some Advils. Who knows? I'll hear later tonight or tomorrow morning if he can practice, and if he can, he will. If he can't, got to keep figuring it out. Who's next?
Lindy might still have that mask if you guys need it. Appreciate it.
Not sure what a typical injury prognosis is for how long someone's out after hitting their face on a backboard. I'd have to check my medical diagnosis for that.
Yeah, I never got up that high.
Our next question comes from Garen Emig from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Garen.
Mike, we all understand the fan situation this year and the importance of it, of course. Having said that, how much of a shame is it that more of your folks can't see Cade in person this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said that since the beginning of the year. And our fans have been terrific. Probably, and I don't know what everybody's situation is. I know some leagues aren't allowing fans at all. And our league is. And I think we're probably in the top of the allowable fans in the building percentage-wise. But it is kind of sucky that more people can't watch this young man who won't be in college much longer, right? Go out there and play this game for this school the way he does, to win first, right? To help his teammates. And I feel bad for that, really, in a lot of ways, because this is kind of what we built towards. This year was the year that I kind of in the back of my mind when I started, it's going to take this long to get where we can really be competitive, and to cap it off with a guy like him and the class we had and all the excitement about the season. I do feel bad that more of our fans can't see it, but I understand why. I mean,
right.
There's really no better way to do it, I don't think.
You've got a pretty.
I argue that we shouldn't have as many people in here as we do.
Yeah, and you've got some folks who've been watching OSU basketball for a while, right, in that building, and it's a savvy base, and it's not. I mean, it's one thing to come because he's going to be the number 1 pick, and I get, there's hype surrounding the kid, but I think you've got a pretty good set of fans who would appreciate the way he goes about games, right? I mean, that's part of it too.
No question. I think that he would understand better why Oklahoma State basketball fans are really, really great fans. I think because he has an understanding of the game, and they would relate to one another. The play he made in the first half today, I don't know how many guys who are thought of as being the number 1 pick would lay out on the ball in the first half of the conference game in February. Whew, I don't know. Not to question any other kids' motives or what but there's some risk involved there. Right? And what he does is he puts aside some of that risk, and he's all in to help this program. And I think our fans appreciate it. And I certainly wish that more of them were able to see it.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman.
Yeah, Mike, Boone and Moncrief both really got out in transition. Sometimes against bigger teams, they can take advantage of your sort of slender builds, but is that a way to counter that with your speed and a lot of fairly easy baskets in transition?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that I think is kind of a unanimous acceptance of what our team is we're long and we're really athletic. And we're fast. Like once when we do get defensive stops, we're really electric in transition. We can really get down the court quick and get on the rim with multiple guys that can finish up there. And so no question that those guys have to, at this point, because of their lack of girth, use their quickness and speed as an advantage and try to counter what they don't have in terms of being a brute force guys against guys like Kevin Samuels and Dave McCormick and Solomon Young in our league. And so we got to build on that. And then in the offseason, you know what? We got to put some more weight on them so that they can do both. And that's part of the process of just getting better.
Our next question comes from Danielle Dwyer from Fox 25. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to touch more on the defensive performance today. You talked about that zone, and you guys definitely wreaked havoc for the Cyclones, holding them scoreless the last 6 minutes of play, 13 steals, 24 points off turnovers. I asked Caleb and MA this as well, and they talked about that pride factor with defense. But what do you think it is about just the defensive effort today that stuck out more? Was there more communication than normal, or is it really the pride factor, or do you think it's something else?
No, it starts with pride. If you don't have that, then you got no chance because you won't care enough to do the other things, right? That's essentially what pride is. It's just caring enough to do what you know is right and not have more selfish motives that override that. But I thought our guys were really well connected today. There were times where there might have seemed like an opening that guys just, continue to play through those mistakes. And I highlighted Cade's play, which saved the possession for us. Avery's, I think it was the first possession defensively of the game, or the second, that led to a shot clock violation that he laid out on the ball in front of our bench. Avery Anderson's chase down block shot that was a foul, or that he got called for a foul on. Another just effort play. Those things are contagious. When you see your teammate doing something like that, and you think, even if you don't really want to, right, you kind of know you'll be embarrassed when you don't make that same type of effort. So I thought our guys were really well connected, and they just play for each other. And again, I think that's notable by our defense, but also our system is offensive.
And talking about Cade, we've heard so many other guys, Brady Manick, for example, talking about how hard it's been coming back from COVID. And I felt maybe today, maybe it's just because of how he was in the first half, he just seemed more like what we saw before COVID. And I'm sure he's just obviously going to continue to make progress each game. But do you feel that he is getting back to like at 100%, is 100%? Or do you feel there are some things maybe still lingering, or just getting back in that rhythm in game mode, I guess, if that makes sense?
Rhythm game, it's hard. It's one of the things that you hate about kids having to sit out games, is because when you don't play, it goes quicker than it comes back. I mean, I'm a testament, right? I do this February diet, and it takes a while for the weight to fall off, but inevitably when I eat that first cheeseburger, I'll gain 5 pounds back pretty quickly. So I know what that's like from a dietary standpoint, but from a playing standpoint, it's the same. You need some rhythm, continually doing something over and over again. There's also a factor of, and I tell my teams this every year, this time of year is really hard because it's really, you're really in the grind now. It's not quite the end. The postseason isn't quite here yet. You can't really see it yet, but there's still some really important games that you just got to get through to get there. And if you don't focus on it, you can go into a downward spiral, or you get better. And for the most part, the teams that I've been fortunate to be the head coach up here, we've gotten better at the end of the year. And I think he's an example of guys getting better. Rondell's an example of guys getting better. And our team is getting better at the right time. And hopefully we can continue it on into our next country.
About your diet, Caleb said it was probably good that MA didn't dunk it at the end because you're on your diet and it might not have went well for him.
Okay. they made a good decision because it's the right thing to do, right? You respect the game. We talk about that all the time. He'll get that 2 points back. I'm sure he would have liked to have had it today. But respecting the game is really, really important. And obviously not wanting to show up our opponents. We got great respect for Iowa State. They've been through a lot this season. And obviously we know that it's a team that eventually we want to just have that same kind of sportsmanship to us.
They said the same thing about respect. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, you made the point about pride a little bit earlier. You look at, after last game, you kind of saw the areas for growth, the areas for improvement after K-State. And so I was kind of just looking up here. It looked like after the loss to Texas, you come back and beat Texas Tech in Lubbock immediately in the next game. You lose to West Virginia, give up 87 points. The following game, you come back and hold K-State to 54. Lose to Baylor and give up 81. Then you come back and hold Iowa State to 60. So like that bounce back ability. You lose to TCU, then you come back and beat Texas and hold them to 67. Does this kind of factor into pride? And I mean, it seems like whenever there's adversity or again, even the K-State game was a win, but you seemed like there's areas that you wanted to see get better. And then they come with one of the most efficient performances of the year. Does this kind of tie in? Is this a little bit of a theme?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about a team that can respond to adversity, especially a young team, because it's not easy when you haven't lost to deal with losing for the first time. This team has always responded when we face some tough times. The thing that this team's got to continue to be able to do is handle prosperity on the flip side of that. And when you win, and now we've won 2 in a row, and we've got over 500, how can you sustain success? And that's the next step for us. And I think today was a good step in that direction because we did play well in the first half and play well in the second half. Now, we didn't play well throughout both halves, but we played well in both halves. And that's something that we haven't been doing throughout the course of the season. We, think back to the West Virginia game specifically, played really well, built a 19-point lead and just kind of lose our minds there. And we did the same thing in Austin. And so this team is getting better and learning how to finish. And today we finished well. And that was something that I feel like is a step in the right direction.
And also you talked earlier about appreciating Cade. I think some people, they try, it's you punch holes in them or you look for the negative, but there's so much out there. Is it, if we go beyond Cade to the whole team, what are the things that you take most pride in about this group as a collective unit?
Well, it's like I told Danielle, they care. They care about each other. They care about the uniforms that they get to wear, the opportunity to play. I think they care about our staff and they want to have success with us, not necessarily for us, but we're all in this together. We're all making the same sacrifices to be able to play this season. And I think there's a sense of joy and pride to do it for each other when we take the court. That's something I feel really good about because those are things you can't measure and they lead to long-term success.
Very good. That'll do it for questions. But before we let you go, is there anything that's important to you that you wanted to address kind of while we've got the group here?
No, again, just thanks to our students, man. They've been great. I really wish, I'll say this, I shouldn't wish it anymore. It's not going to happen. I can't wait till they're back down on a low level so I can go up and give them some daps and hugs after games. But I love these students. They've been super supportive of us and look forward to finishing the season strong.